What is up YouTube? Welcome back to the channel. It's me, Refined Zero, and today you're going to be watching the #1 VECNA guide there is to watch. Why watch me? Because I'm a VECNA main and I think he's one of the best killers to play and also one of the most fun to go against. In this video I'm going to be covering all the basics about VECNA as well as some of the advanced techs that I personally like to use. If you enjoy the content, please hit the like and subscribe button for more of my DBD content. And feel free as well to come over to Twitch, drop us a follow because we play DBD over there, and we also like to spice it up with some horror variety on the weekends. With all that said and done, I'm not going to waste any more of your time. Let's start the video. Now that we have begun, we will first be taking a look at the basics. VECNA is one of those killers that do so well in chase. His kit is extremely fun to use and offers him many options inside a match. I like to play VECNA quite aggressive when I am going for the win, and I think his kit can deliver on this through pressure. His kit consists of Fly, Mage Hand, Dispelling Sphere, and Flight of the Damned. However, just before I go into his kit and his spells, I first want to quickly talk about his add-ons and then some perks I think that synergize well with him. We will start with two of the best common add-ons for VECNA, the first being the Trickster's Glove. This add-on increases the time by half a second on an upright pallet whilst being held by your Mage Hand ability. I find this helps a lot when trying to get that little extra distance in, what should hopefully turn into a hit on the survivor. The second great common add-on is the Raven's Feather. This add-on extends the flight duration of your fly spell by half a second. This is quite useful most of the time as this enhances VECNA's map mobility and chase pressure. However, it is also much stronger on smaller maps. Now we're going to move on to some useful uncommon add-ons. First, we have the Ring of Spell Storing. This add-on permanently reduces the cooldown timer of all spells by 2 seconds. And this works quite well and can sometimes be the difference between having your spells ready again at the right time when needed. The next uncommon but golden add-on in my opinion, and arguably one of VECNA's strongest add-ons, is the Potion of Speed. This add-on reduces the interaction cooldown time after casting Fly by half a second. This means when you come out of Fly, you will be able to attack faster by coming out of the Fly animation quicker, and this oftentimes is necessary. As for some rare add-ons, we have the Pearl of Power. This add-on reduces the current cooldown timer of all spells by 3 seconds after a successful basic attack. This paired with Ring of Spell Storing can be really useful at getting those spells back fast. Now we've got the Boots of Speed. Casting Mage Hand grants you 5% haste for 2 seconds. This spell can help secure the hit, especially when you pair it with the Trickster's Glove. Now for some of the most useful, very rare add-ons. The first being the Dragon Tooth Dagger. This is actually a decent add-on and works quite well against survivors when trying to create slowdown and pressure. It applies hemorrhage and mangled status effects to survivors hit with a basic attack while holding a magic item for 45 seconds. Most of the time everyone is going to have a magic item. I rarely ever see survivors not pick these items up at the start of a VECNA game, so it's pretty much a guaranteed sloppy butcher. Hemorrhage regresses healing progress when not healing and increases blood trails left by injured survivors, while Mangled increases time required to heal by 25%. The next very rare add-on is the Cloak of Invisibility. You gain Undetectable for 10 seconds each time all of your spells are on cooldown at the same time. With this add-on, I don't usually bring the cooldown reducing add-on because I kind of want my spells to be on the longer side. The best part about this add-on is that even if you run out of Undetectable and one of your spells are ready, if you use that spell straight away, you will instantly go back to being undetectable again. There isn't a cooldown, it just works on the premise that your spells are all depleted. I used this quite a lot recently and was quite surprised by how much this surprised survivors and confused them at the tiles we were looping. And now we're going to talk about the Bag of Holding. 2 treasure chests are guaranteed to roll 1 on the dice roll. Opening treasure chests grants the Oblivious status effects to survivors for 15 seconds. This is a fun add-on and can actually be quite useful. Bringing this add-on usually sees one of the survivors get attacked by one of VECNA's mimic chests. This gives you aura and shows you where the survivor is early game, which can be very useful. Oblivious also prevents survivors from hearing and being affected by the killer's terror radius. Right, Now it's time for the 2 ultra rare add-ons. Let's start with the Vorpal Sword. Any injured survivor that enters a Dispelling Sphere screams and gains broken for 30 seconds. And using the Mage Hand spell on a down pallet breaks that pallet in 3.2 seconds. Broken prevents survivors from being healed. Honestly, this add-on, although ultra rare, isn't always the best. There are occasions it is useful, but most of the time it ends up not being useful. You can combine it with other spells however, such as the Glass Eye Uncommon add-on, which increases the radius of the Dispelling Sphere spell by 2 meters and also increases the movement speed of the Dispelling Sphere by 10%. The more useful part is the breaking of down pallets. This is something I will show you later in the video and ways of using it to catch the survivors off guard and put them into a tricky situation. Not the worst add-on in VECNA's kit, but definitely not the best. Now, the ultra rare add-on, the Iridescent Book of Vile Darkness. Using the Fly spell to pass through any vault location blocks that location for survivors for 45 seconds. Lowers the number of spectral entities created by Flight of the Damned by 3 and makes them fly lower to the ground. Now, this is definitely stronger than the Vorpal Sword in my opinion. The reason being, flying through a vault will block that vault for 45 seconds, essentially copying the perk Bamboozle. However, this is on steroids at 45 seconds. That is a very long time to block a window and can definitely help in chase. The second reason is that although the number of skeletons is reduced to only 2, they fly on the ground, meaning survivors can't crouch and dodge them. This does require more practice, but once you have it down, it can more or less be a guaranteed hit. As you can see, the Book of Vile Darkness is extremely good at producing pressure and adding to the chase. I will quickly show you the add-on that you can synergize with the Book of Vile Darkness though, and it's the Ornate Horn add-on. This increases the number of entities created by Flight of the Damned by 1. So although the book reduces your skeletons down to 2, if you bring this add-on as well, it allows you to have 3 skeletons on the ground. I sometimes use this, but honestly, I think there are better options. These are the add-ons that I mainly use all the time. The other ones that I haven't mentioned, please feel free to have a go with them and see if there's something you can work out. There is quite a lot of his spells that synergize with one another, but I found the ones that I've listed to be most effective. Now to quickly discuss perks. There are 2 perks I think are an absolute must on VECNA, and I will quickly explain why. First we have Bamboozle. In cases where you do not bring the Book of Vile Darkness, which will block windows by flying through them, Bamboozle serves the same purpose by shutting down vaults immediately. This is crucial for VECNA because once his spells are on cooldown, you are now ultimately an M1 killer. Bamboozle is very strong on M1 killers, so this always serves him well. Don't be afraid of the shack with this perk on him because you can quickly shut down the vault, and if the survivor commits to the shack loop, even if they drop the pallet, you can use your Mage Hand to quickly raise it and get a hit. The second is Rapid Brutality. This perk gives you 5% haste when hitting a survivor with a basic attack. The reason this is so strong on VECNA is because it pairs well with his Fly spell. Again, the chase and pressure from VECNA is amplified with these added speed boosts. You hit a survivor, instantly fly with the additional haste, and you will be right back on them, ensuring a quicker down. I will note that this does fully disable Bloodlust, but VECNA is one of the best users of Rapid Brutality, and the advantages far outweigh the negatives. Most of the time you will be using spells and fly for mobility, so I wouldn't worry about the Bloodlust. The perks on screen are a good build to try whilst learning VECNA. This is Bamboozle, Rapid Brutality, Surge, and Grim Embrace. Surge really works well on smaller maps, but still offers good pressure without it dying out. Grim also locks survivors out of gens, and if you are winning your chases, then this build will add good pressure. The second build is a little less gem pressure, but something that really boosts VECNA in pressure again. Adding Save the Best for Last works wonders when paired with Rapid Brutality. As soon as you hit a survivor that is not your obsession, you will gain tokens, reducing the animation after hitting the survivor, which means you get more use out of Rapid and the added haste, and as soon as you take off with Fly, you will be catching survivors faster than today's sponsor. Only kidding, nobody sponsors me. The third build I put together has more about accessibility. This build only needs the artist for the gem pressure. I chose Sloppy Butcher so you can take advantage of survivors taking longer to heal. Agitation so that you can move to the hooks faster to secure your Grim Embrace and Pain Res. With this build, I would recommend bringing both the Pearl of Power and the Ring of Spell Starring to greatly reduce your spell cooldowns. With that said, these are some of the perks I love to use, and I cannot place enough emphasis on Bamboozle and Rapid Brutality with VECNA. Two extremely good perks to use with him. Okay, if you're still with me, make sure you comment Cookie in the comment section below. Now it's time to go from words to action, so let me show you how his kit works. The first spell we are going to look at is Fly. Fly is great for getting around the map and also applying more pressure in chase. It allows you to catch straight back up to a survivor, and there are many different situations Fly becomes useful. One of the best ways to manipulate Fly is when travelling through vaults, especially ones that have a drop. As you can see, when I fly through the vault whilst chasing the survivor, I catch up immediately and this gives me an easy hit. This will work more or less all the time unless the survivor has balanced landing. Then you may not catch them straight away, but you still would have gained far more distance anyways. Now, how about when you get a survivor that decides to try and body block you? Well, if you hold Fly but don't actually cast it, you can no-clip straight through them. This can come in handy in clutch moments when you are so close to getting the down and you aren't denied by somebody blocking you. And just like flying over vaults, you can also use your Fly to go over dropped pallets. It's still worth mentioning that this will still take you out of the Fly, as travelling over vaults or pallets automatically disables your spell. Which I wish wasn't the case, because I think it would still be fine to continue the chase, and it makes VECNA's kit a lot more in your control. This next tip is when flying over a pallet. If the survivor has moved away but decides to try and re-vault back over the pallet to get away from you, if you place your body in the way of the survivor as you land, you should be able to deny them by body blocking them. This can come in really handy and is especially useful when using the Potion of Speed add-on that reduces the fly animation as you come out of your spell, allowing you to grab or hit quicker. Now, if the survivor decides to stay right next to the pallet, this can be bad for you because as soon as you fly over it, they can vault instantly back to the other side, leaving you feeling a little awkward. If they do move away and then try to go back, you should have time to body block them, but there is something else you can do to try and bait them out of this. As you begin to fly towards the drop pallet, try to swing yourself left and right to control yourself and make it look like you are going to go over the pallet. If the survivor takes the bait, they will vault the pallet thinking you are going to fly over it, when in actual fact you set them up for a hit. Now, this is where I show you the use of Rapid Brutality. The clip you are looking at right now is without Rapid. We hit the survivor and then attempt to fly straight away to catch back up. However, we didn't get as close as we wanted. In this clip, we are using Rapid, and as you can see on screen, it allows us to catch up insanely quicker. The value Rapid gives to VECNA in chase can be really powerful, hence the reason I spoke so highly of it a little while ago. My last tip on Fly is to use it to zone survivors into parts of the map you want them in, and with that said, that's pretty much Fly. Use it to instantly catch up to survivors, to provide yourself with good map mobility, and get creative with it whilst interacting with vaults and pallets. Next on the list is Mage Hand. Just throwing this out there right now to remind you to stretch and hydrate. Pause the vid and do it. Otherwise, Meg will come and stare at you during the night. We can now go through all the Mage Hand information, and I will start with the basic. Mage Hand, when casted on an upright pallet, will temporarily block that pallet from being dropped by the survivor. If you use Mage Hand on a downed pallet, it will instead lift the pallet back up to its default position. My first tip with Mage Hand is to not cast it far away when taking chase. The issue here is if you cast it too early, the survivor could have enough time to loop around, and by the time they reach the pallet again, they will be able to drop it, meaning your Mage Hand is now on cooldown and the survivor bought some extra time in chase. So if you are going to use Mage Hand, make sure it's at the last possible second before casting to ensure you have every chance of gaining a hit or down. The more you practice this, the more you will learn to judge when to drop and also when to back away. As playing VECNA over time, you become accustomed to knowing when you will and won't make the loop, and you will be able to dodge a potential pallet stun. My next tip can be really effective when looping a downed pallet. You might think it easier to just break the pallet, and sometimes this is the best case, but with practice you can actually fool the survivor who is sticking to the loop to gain more time by using Mage Hand to cut through the middle of the loop and guaranteeing yourself a free hit. This works because sometimes survivors don't want to leave this loop after pre-dropping the pallet and will continue to run you around a now bigger loop. By lifting the pallet at the right time when you are almost opposite to the survivor, you essentially cut straight through the middle, which oftentimes catches survivors off guard. Another quick tip when approaching a downed pallet: just before the survivor is going to vault, you can actually cast Mage Hand to bring the pallet back up. However, this then temporarily stops the survivor from vaulting or moving forward, which means if you can get yourself right behind them, you should be able to deny them dropping the pallet and ensuring yourself another hit. Now, this one is a tip but also comes with a big warning to you whilst learning VECNA. As you know, the survivors during matches with VECNA have the chance to open magical chests which will roll a dice, and depending on what number they get will result in a different effect. Rolling a 1 is bad for the survivor, as this turns the chest into a mimic which will attack the survivor. This gives VECNA an aura read and a loud noise notification. Rolling anywhere from 2 to 19 can grant you a few different items. However, I will read to you the basics. So there are 6 treasure chests containing special magic items for survivors to equip. So these can include boots and or gauntlets. All magic items reveal the aura of the Lich for 1.5 seconds when he casts their associated spell. The Sky Guard reveals the aura of the Lich during fly, and this effect lingers for 0.25 seconds. The Night Watch reveals the auras of the flying entities during Flight of the Damned. The Archivist turns the Dispelling Sphere visible. Now here's the one that can be a big problem: the Interloper. This reveals the aura of pallets affected by Mage Hand. However, it also grants a 7% haste status effect for 3 seconds. This means if you're going to use Mage Hand when somebody has the Interloper, they are going to gain a 7% haste speed buff, and this means it can be very tricky to secure that hit. You may very well be outran around the loop and they may drop the pallet onto you. Survivors can have both a boot and a gauntlet equipped at the same time. Unlucky survivors may only find a regular item inside a treasure chest that is either depleted or half depleted. Now, the two that will give you the most problems are the magical items the survivors receive when rolling a perfect D20. This will either be the Hand of VECNA or the Eye of VECNA. Both can cause you big trouble. The Hand of VECNA means rushing into a locker teleports the survivor to a different locker that is at least 10 meters away. This does trigger a loud noise notification on the target locker and Killer Instinct on them for 5 seconds. So if somebody does jump into a locker, you will see their aura not long after through Killer Instinct, and that's where you can choose to either pursue them or to go for somebody else. The Eye of VECNA means rushing out of a locker has the following effects for 12 seconds. This one is quite big. Suppresses the aura, scratch marks, blood pools, and grunts of pain of the survivor. It also grants them complete invisibility, grants 25% haste, and triggers Killer Instinct for 3 seconds after becoming visible again. That is the only indicator that they have used that item. Now there is a risk to using the Hand of VECNA and the Eye of VECNA. So survivors attuned to these items with an accumulated 2 hook stages are vulnerable to the Lich recovering his artifact from them, and this is in the way of an instant Mori, kind of like Sadako with her Condemned. Now, unlike the Eye and Hand of VECNA, the Interloper is what I want to show you guys and why it's so important to be aware of. Once I cast Mage Hand, if the survivor has the Interloper, they will receive that 7% haste bonus. This means the likelihood of you making it around to hit them might be very low. Now don't worry, because as long as you are paying attention, there is a way to nullify this. It comes from the beauty of Dispelling Sphere. A good habit to be in is to make good use of your Dispelling Sphere to gather information. However, just like Fly can help in map mobility, Fly can also be great in chase, and so can Dispelling Sphere. If you notice a survivor has, or even if you're not 100% sure, you should still try to dispel them before they reach a pallet. The reason being is that the sphere disables their magic items, and this then means that they do not get that 7% haste, and this can be big for you in successfully making a hit. As you can see, this time after dispelling them, we make it in time. A quick note however, unfortunately the Dispelling Sphere will not stop survivors using the powerful Eye and Hand of VECNA items. My best advice is to keep an eye on who has these items and either get them to 2 hooks so that they can be insta-moried, or by just knowing they have them, this can then help you determine your plan whilst chasing them. If they have the Eye of VECNA, you can try to listen for where they are running and you might be able to hit them. However, the chase music usually makes this too difficult. The Hand of VECNA can sometimes backfire and place the survivors exactly 10 meters away in another locker, meaning when they use the item, they lose a health state and this can be really easy to catch them. So there is some risk and reward. I will also note that if the survivors are already injured, these magical items won't work when entering a locker. You will always get a loud noise notification when someone receives a perfect D20, because VECNA will make his voice heard around the whole map. He doesn't take kindly to having his magical items messed with, even though he apparently just left them hanging around. And there we have now covered Mage Hand. Now it's time to quickly go through the Dispelling Sphere. As I said previously, the Dispelling Sphere can both be used in chase and to gain information whilst looking around the map. Once the sphere passes through a survivor, you will always receive Killer Instinct, as well as disallowing those survivors to use their magical items, unless they happen to have either the Eye or Hand of VECNA. This power is a little bit more straightforward. It doesn't have an enormous cooldown, so you should feel free to send it out after hooking someone or to see if someone is on a generator. Bear in mind that if the survivors have the appropriate item, they will be able to see your sphere coming towards them. Sometimes I wish this wasn't the case, but it is how it is. Aside from this, the only real tip I can give you is to use it to your advantage in a cunning way. If you know a survivor could be running around from you, I like to try mind games. I send the Dispelling Sphere to where I think the survivor is going to run. However, I move away from the sphere and approach the survivor from a different angle. This sometimes works and is helped massively when the survivor cannot see you, because they may attempt to dodge the sphere and automatically zone themselves, which means if you had time to catch up, they might be taken by surprise and you could easily get a hit. What it all comes down to is to practice more than ever by reminding yourself to dispel survivors before committing to pallets. This way, there is a good chance their magical items won't do much to help them. With Dispelling Sphere being nice and quick, it's now time to move on to one of VECNA's final powers. The Flight of the Damned. The skeletal entities created through using Flight of the Damned summons and sends 5 skeletons outwards, which aims to hit the survivors. The main issue with this is that choosing to crouch can have the skeletons completely clear the survivors' heads and result in a miss. You can use them for other purposes other than hitting, such as zoning. If you send the skeletons in the direction the survivors want to go, it will force them to change course or crouch, which gives you time to catch up, either by the slowdown the survivors get from crouching or by zoning them into a part of the map that might not have a pallet nearby. But we are going to talk about more creative ways to use this power. When chasing a survivor, if you think you won't make hitting them with a basic attack before they reach the pallet, you can use your skeletons and insta-spawn them on top of the survivors' heads whilst they drop the pallet. This is amazing at denying the survivors ways of extending chase. Some tiles around the maps are different sizes, and one good way to learn the distance the skeletons spawn from VECNA are to go into custom lobbies and practice around certain objects. Once you get better at this, it's usually a free hit. Something I love to do when in chase and looping is to flick my skeletons onto survivors. If you do it quick enough, the animation VECNA makes won't be easily read by the survivor and may end up allowing you to gain a free hit by catching them by surprise. You can then use this method whilst looping to incorporate a mini flick when they are about to drop the pallet, again resulting in a hit. Now, one of the best parts of VECNA's skeletons, the use of height. This is something to try and learn each time you play. Always think about where you are on a map and how you can use elevation to your advantage. When VECNA's Flight of the Damned spawn, they will be higher. This means if a survivor is already slightly higher than you, even if they crouch, the skeletons will still make contact. There is sometimes a chance that the survivors will just miss some of the skeletons because as they shoot out, the further they travel, the more they separate from each other. This is why I never use the skeletons for distance shots. Sometimes you might get very lucky, but most times it's far more effective in both close and medium range. Some great places to practice are inside the killer shack, which has the basement. Whilst looping and chasing a survivor, drop down a little into the basement and send your skeletons out on the floor level. This can be such a rewarding play when done right and can confuse the survivors more by how you manage to hit them. And that is Flight of the Damned. Practice around different tiles with the insta-spawn skeletons, work on flicks and make good use of elevation, and you will feel great when achieving those juicy shots. Now it's time for an honourable mention. When VECNA is using both his Eerie add-ons, the Book of Vile Darkness and the Vorpal Sword, he can fly through and block vaults for a massive 45 seconds, as well as destroying down pallets in just over 3 seconds. The great tip I have for you whilst using this add-on is to not only block vaults with fly, but to use the Mage Hand to trap survivors. When a survivor goes and tries to vault over a downed pallet, if you use your Mage Hand with this add-on for the entire 3.2 seconds it takes for the pallet to be destroyed, the survivor will be stuck there and unable to escape. This can often create some funny interactions. I just want to say thank you so much if you made it all the way through the video. You'll be a godlike Lich in no time. I would really appreciate it if you could leave some comments if this video helped you or taught you anything new. VECNA is a fun killer with the combination of his spells and the magical items scattered around the map. Enjoy the chase and try to practice the points I made whilst using his powers. All the best of luck to you, and I shall see you in the fog.